what leads you to believe it's Murano?
There's a tag underneath here that said it Murano. So.
Oh, okay. So basically, we have a nice early paper label, Murano Venini, right?
Right.
Okay. So Paolo Venini started the Venini Glassworks around 1921. The island of Murano, it's a very well-established glassmaking area, internationally known, of course. I think this is a design by Carlo Scarpa.
Carlo Scarpa entered the Murano glass world in the late 1920s, working with Venini, then a relatively new but ambitious firm determined to modernize Italian decorative arts. Venice had long produced ornate Baroque and Rococo glass for export, but by the early 20th century, tastes had shifted towards simpler, more architectural forms. Scarpa proved an ideal collaborator, trained as an architect, yet deeply attuned to texture, light, and material nuance. The 1930s, when this vase was made, marked his first major experimental period in glass, years before he gained international acclaim for his architecture. The technique used in this vase is known as bollicine, Italian for little bubbles, distinguished by tiny, evenly distributed air bubbles suspended within the glass body. These bubbles are deliberately controlled, not accidental inclusions, giving the glass a shimmering internal texture, optical depth, and a subtle sense of movement. Scarpa believed that glass should respond to light as stone or water does, absorbing, refracting, and softening it, qualities clearly visible in this example. This early work foreshadows Scarpa's mid-century masterworks in both glass and architecture, making it a historically significant touchstone in his career.
I think a good auction estimate would be 15 to 20,000.
Oh, nice. Yeah. That's sweet.
Yeah. And this really is a very nice piece of 20th century glass.
Thank you. That's great. We love it. We really appreciate it.
In the 1930s, my parents went to an estate sale in New Haven, Connecticut, and they bought it. And I know that they didn't pay much money for it because they didn't have any money. It's been in the family for over 60 years.
That's wonderful. This particular glass was made at Tiffany in around 1914. Tiffany was owned and operated by Louis Comfort Tiffany, who was the son of Charles Tiffany, the founder of Tiffany and Company. This particular glass is called aquamarine glass. It was produced for a very short period of time.
The celebrated aquamarine glass line emerged from Tiffany Studios in the early 1920s, during Louis Comfort Tiffany's final, yet remarkably inventive, period of experimentation in glass chemistry and form. Unlike the iridescent Favrile glass that helped define Tiffany's reputation at the turn of the century, aquamarine embraced a quieter and more contemplative aesthetic, inspired by naturalism and the optical effects of water and light. The series is distinguished by exceptional clarity, cool blue-green hues, and surfaces often accented with applied glass trails, tiny bubbles, or pulled textures that evoke rippling waves or refracted sunlight. The Vase coloration itself was unusually pure for the time. Tiffany's chemists achieved it through carefully proportioned copper and iron oxides, resulting in subtle tonal shifts reminiscent of Caribbean shallows or ancient Roman glass. As we see in this vase, aquamarine glass feels fluid and aqueous, an effect that reflects Tiffany's lifelong fascination with water, gemstones, and natural optical phenomena. In the end, aquamarine stands as Tiffany Studios' late, refined homage to nature, capturing light, color, and motion in a way that feels both ancient and modern, lyrical yet technically demanding.
Your piece of glass is worth between $30,000 and $40,000. Pretty good.
This is a piece by the Anna Pottery Company, which was started by the Kirkpatrick brothers, Cornwall and Wallace, in the 1800s. And Cornwall Kirkpatrick is my great-great-grandfather. So it was passed down. I'm probably the 5th generation to have it. My parents gave it to me, and so here it is in Boise.
Wow. So it's always been in the family?
Yes.
And it was made by a family member back then?
It was made by a family member. It's hard to tell whether Wallace or Cornwall Kirkpatrick made it. I don't know how you would know that, but it was definitely made by the Anna Pottery, which was their company.
Do you know why it's called the Anna Pottery?
Well, it's called the Anna Pottery because it was located in Anna, Illinois, which is where I was born.
Right. If we're going to venture a guess as to who modeled it, by the way, my money would be on Wallace, who was a master modeler, and you can see a good deal of modeling on the vase here.
The Anna Pottery Company, founded in Anna, Illinois, in 1859 by brothers Cornwall and Wallace Kirkpatrick, became a prominent name in 19th century American folk and art pottery. Operating well into the late 19th century, Anna Pottery specialized in functional stoneware, jugs, crocks, and jars, but also produced decorative and commemorative wares, including vases, that exemplified Midwestern craftsmanship. The workshop was particularly known for innovative mold designs and distinctive surface treatments, giving its wares a recognizable style among collectors. This vase demonstrates the company's skill. Thrown in a baluster shape, it is adorned with individually molded flowers encircling the body, adding both strength and visual interest. Incised motifs around the base further highlight Anna Pottery's signature decorative approach. Today, Anna Pottery vases are prized for their authenticity, craftsmanship, and ability to capture the spirit of 19th century American pottery. Objects that are both utilitarian and artistic.
I suspect if it came in a good auction today, the low estimate would be around $10,000. And I think the high estimate could be as much as $15,000.
That's good to know because we probably need to have it insured. We have several pieces, so.
If you have several pieces, this may not be the most valuable one. They also made at this time vases similar scale with snakes on them.
Right.
And the snake vases are more appealing and much more valuable. They can be worth twice as much as the value I gave you on this.
My grandfather was William Henry Stem, who was an artist at the Weller Pottery later on, but first he started at the Owens Pottery. He had worked before that for Ronchetta, the French muralist. My grandfather was his apprentice. Ronchetta was a very dangerous work in that he had scaffolding that was way up in the domes of buildings, and he also traveled. My grandmother told my grandfather that she wouldn't marry him if he was gone so much and in such a dangerous line of work.
Rookwood was in Cincinnati, Ohio, and Rookwood made a standard brown glaze in the 80s into the 90s, and this piece of Owens that your grandfather did is called Utopian ware, which is their name for standard brown glaze. Rookwood made iris glaze, which instead of the brown background and darker colors was pastel backgrounds and pastel colors. Owens had their copy, they called it Lotus, and Weller had their copy, which they called Eotian. And what you have here are three pieces of Weller Eotian. This one is marked by the Weller Company.
The Weller Pottery Company, founded in Ohio in 1872, became one of the most influential American art pottery firms of the late 19th and early 20th centuries. By the 1910s and 1920s, Weller had shifted from purely functional stoneware to decorative art pottery, producing lines that explored innovative glazes, textures, and naturalistic motifs. The Eotian line, introduced in the early 20th century, reflects Weller's fascination with water, marine life, and flowing organic forms. Its name evokes a poetic connection to the sea, and these showcased vases feature ocean-inspired glazes in deep blues, aquamarines, and seafoam greens. They also show Art Deco influence, with sinuous curves, elegant organic shapes, and a harmonious integration of form and surface decoration. Weller's artists achieved these effects through hand-thrown and molded techniques, layering glazes to create depth and iridescence reminiscent of sunlight on water. Each vase was crafted to capture the movement and serenity of the sea, making the Eotian line both visually striking and emotionally resonant. Today, these vases stand as a vivid testament to Weller's mastery of natural inspiration, technical skill, and refined design.
The brown glaze pieces don't bring all that much. For you, it's family value, historical value. And a small brown glaze piece like this today is worth about $100 to $150 at auction at most. This is one of the first of the three Eotian pieces that you have by your grandfather, signed on the front.
WS.
WS. Because it's a picture, it's worth a little bit less. This is worth at auction between $800 and $1,000.
Okay.
This is very similar to the picture, again signed WS on the front. But because it's a vase, it's worth about $1,200 to $1,600.
Wow.
And finally, this is a really pretty one. It's just bigger, it's better, it's got better colors. The background tends to blush, so it's Eotian rose, which pumps it up a little bit. This at auction is between $1,500 and $2,000.
That's amazing.
These are some ceramic pieces that are by a couple named the Natlers, and one of them did the bodies and one of them did the glazes. I inherited them from my uncle, who was a designer in San Francisco.
They're such beautiful examples, and I saw them and I just popped. Otto and Gertrude Natler came from Austria, and they had their first studio there in 1935. And before getting married and moving here in 1938, they exhibited in Paris at the Universal Exhibition and won a silver medal. So by the time they got to Los Angeles in 1938, they were already quite established.
In the mid-20th century, Rudolf and Gertrude Natler had firmly established themselves as pioneers of modernist ceramic art in the United States. Having emigrated from Vienna in the 1930s, the couple merged Rudolf's technical mastery of wheel-thrown ceramics and glaze chemistry with Gertrude's sculptural design sensibility, creating work that was both functional and profoundly artistic. This bowl and vase exemplify the height of their collaborative achievement. Each piece was hand-thrown with precise attention to proportion and form, then finished with glazes that could never be exactly replicated. The Natlers became renowned for their innovative glaze research, which yielded lustrous, variegated surfaces with shimmering metallic and opalescent effects, as seen in this vase. These surfaces evoke natural phenomena, stone, water, or mineral deposits, while their layered textures reveal the spontaneity and unpredictability of high-temperature firing. Even in functional forms, such as bowls and vases, the Natlers dissolved the boundary between craft and sculpture, embodying the modernist conviction that everyday objects could also be works of fine art. Collectors prize Natler ceramics not only for their aesthetic refinement, but also as masterpieces of 20th century studio pottery, objects that balance human intention with the elemental forces of the kiln.
Prices. At auction, conservative estimates. The bowl, $3,000 to $4,000. The bottle-shaped vase, $7,000 to $10,000.
Oh my goodness.
Yes.
Really?
So the two of them together,
Oh
about,
my goodness.
yes, 10,000 to 13 or so.
Oh, that's incredible.
This vase has been in our family for over 100 years. It was given to my grandmother for her wedding gift, and I've held it and admired it since I was a little girl.
Do you know when your grandmother got married?
Probably around, I believe, like 1918.
Good. Because they didn't start making this until about 1916.
Oh.
Where did they live?
Omaha, Nebraska.
Oh, that is so perfect, because that just pulls all the little threads together. This is a vase that is from the Frederick Carter era of Steuben.
Oh.
And it's called a Tyrion vase. Steuben glass is based in Corning, New York.
Okay.
Frederick Carter was the man who headed it up. And during his specific era of production, he made beautiful colored glass.
The Tyrion line was introduced by Steuben Glass Works in the early 20th century, at a moment when American glassmakers were racing to create richly colored art glass capable of rivaling Europe's luxury output. Founded in Corning, New York, in 1903, Steuben quickly earned a reputation for technical innovation and refined aesthetics, placing it alongside Tiffany, Quezal, and Durand in the American art glass movement. Named for Tyrion purple, the fabled dye of ancient Mediterranean royalty, the Tyrion vases evoked rarity, prestige, and historical opulence. Their glass featured layered coloration in purples, blues, aubergines, and greenish metallic tones, qualities fully expressed in this example. Under changing light, the surface can shimmer with iridescence, giving the piece a jewel-like depth. Where Tiffany favored more overt decoration, Steuben pursued a restrained modern elegance, employing clean silhouettes and allowing color and surface to serve as the primary ornament. This design philosophy positioned the Tyrion line at the crossroads of Art Nouveau and the emerging Art Deco sensibility, pairing soft curves with quiet refinement. For collectors today, Tyrion vases are admired not only for their technical virtuosity in producing complex iridescent hues, but also for their significant role in Steuben's early experimental period, objects that mark a pivotal chapter in the history of American art glass.
I would say a retail value, given its condition, between $10,000 and $12,000.
Oh my goodness. Oh, I would have never guessed that whatsoever. Oh my goodness.
I know my dad was in Shanghai in 1937, and he was purchasing furniture and odds and ends because my mother was coming out to the Philippines. And when she came back to New York in 1941, it all got shipped over. Later on, when I was born, I just remember seeing them on top of the old-fashioned kind of TV in the furniture, and she just said, when you dust, be careful. So in 1998, she moved out to live with us in California. They came, and they've been packed up ever since, and we decided maybe now was a chance to see what they were worth.
They're a beautiful pair. It's rather interesting in the fact that they were done during the Republic period in China, which started in 1912. They were inspired by Qinglong pieces, and that's what's on the bottom, the Qinglong mark. It's a spurious mark. It's not a genuine mark of that period, but somebody looking at that would say, oh, it's Qinglong. It's the Qinglong style, and it's an honorific type of marking. But they're fantastically good quality.
During the Republic period, China underwent profound political, economic, and cultural transformation. These shifts were vividly reflected in the decorative arts, particularly in enamelware and cloisonne, which moved beyond imperial court patronage to serve an expanding commercial market at home and abroad. Republic period enamel vases like these examples often preserved familiar Chinese motifs: dragons, phoenixes, peonies, scholars' landscapes, and auspicious bats, but rendered them with a new lightness and painterly finesse. Artists favored brighter palettes, more open compositions, and subtle tonal gradations, revealing both late Qing aesthetics and early modern influences. The landscape seen on these vases illustrates these qualities. Their colors are cleaner, more vivid, and more chromatically controlled than many mid to late Qing counterparts, with refined brushwork that enhances clarity and atmosphere. This era also witnessed a revitalization of cloisonne techniques. Enamel was applied within fine metal partitions to create crisp, jewel-like surfaces, and workshops in Beijing, Tianjin, and Guangzhou, along with independent artisans, produced wares for domestic collectors, diplomats, and the growing export trade. Collectors today prize Republic enamel and cloisonne for their technical refinement, vivid coloration, and historical resonance, objects that capture a pivotal moment in Chinese decorative arts, bridging the imperial past and the modern world.
An auction market price for this pair would be between $12,000 and $18,000.
Wow, that's
in
incredible.
Today's market.
Yeah, well, thank you for that.
I'm way into Pewabic pottery. It's a Detroit-based pottery started by Mary Chase Perry Stratton.
And when did she start potting?
1903, I think. Before that, I think she was doing some china painting. To my knowledge, she was encouraged by one of her benefactors, Mr. Freer, to try to develop a patinated glaze, much like a buried Middle Eastern glaze, like in glasses.
Like Roman glass.
Exactly.
Well, you have three different pieces of Pewabic here from three different periods. We have a tile, which is a bit later. I call it a tile anyway. It's an Alice in Wonderland tile. What's the date of this?
I was thinking it was probably the teens, maybe the 1920s.
The iridescent piece I would date sometime between 1912 and 1917. It's a good early one. But this is pre-1910. This would be maybe 1907, 1908, her earliest germinal work.
Founded in Detroit in 1903 by ceramicist Mary Chase Perry Stratton and architect Horace Calkins, Pewabic Pottery quickly became one of the most influential American studios of the arts and crafts movement. Its name, derived from a Native American word for copper, references Michigan's copper mining heritage and presages the metallic, iridescent beauty of its most celebrated glazes. In the early 20th century, Pewabic developed a distinctive aesthetic, simple architectural forms, grounded in utility, paired with experimental reduction glazes whose colors shifted unpredictably in the kiln. These effects produced iridescent lusters in blues, greens, violets, and coppery tones, with metallic sheens reminiscent of ancient Middle Eastern and Hispano-Moresque ceramics, as seen in these examples. Perry Stratton's glazes became legendary, earning praise from museums and architects alike. The studio executed major architectural commissions, installing ceramic tiles and mosaics in churches, universities, libraries, and civic buildings throughout the Midwest, integrating ceramics into public spaces as enduring works of art. What began as an independent studio experiment evolved into a lasting artistic legacy, one that continues to define American studio pottery and remains a cornerstone of Detroit's cultural identity.
A piece like this at auction, I would estimate it for between $10,000 and $15,000.
Oh my.
This one at auction, I'd estimate right now for $25,000 to $35,000 at auction. And in my opinion, and I got goosebumps here. It's not my first time around the racetrack. I've seen a lot of this stuff. This is the best piece of Pewabic I've ever seen.
Oh my gosh.
I think this would be in any museum in America that had American art pottery in it. While I think the estimate at $25,000 to $35,000 is reasonable, I see no reason why a piece like this couldn't do $50,000 or more. This is a major piece of pottery.
That's amazing.
Thank you. Thank you.
No,
thank you. We are not worthy.
I can't help but want to touch this particular vase. It has such a satin texture to it. I bet you do this a lot.
I do, and that's what appealed to me when I first seen it.
So tell me, where did it come from?
It came from an estate sale a few years ago. I had it on display for quite a while, and then I changed decor. My husband and I have just moved, and it's been in storage. There was a decision about the vase, whether we're going to keep it, and I really love it. I was always interested, wanted to know what the markings were. I knew it was something because we do collect other pottery.
It's made by a company called Rorstrand. And Rorstrand is a Swedish pottery.
Okay.
Rorstrand has a long history. It's the oldest Swedish pottery. It's been in business for about 300 years.
Really?
And now this is certainly mid-20th century Scandinavian design. It's a gorgeous piece done by a particular designer that I believe is Gunnar Nyland.
Gunnar Nylund, a Finnish-born ceramicist and sculptor, joined Rorstrand in 1931 and became its artistic director in 1935, shaping Swedish ceramics for decades. Nylund emphasized functionalism paired with naturalistic forms, often drawing on animals, birds and plants rendered in stylized realism. He favored simple, elegant shapes, smooth surfaces, and muted or earthy glazes. This vase exemplifies his approach, minimalist decoration with subtle natural motifs and exceptional craftsmanship, reflecting Rorstrand's mastery of firing, molding, and glaze control. Nylund's work aligned with mid-century Scandinavian design, balancing functionality, human-scale proportions, and visual harmony, while honoring European porcelain traditions. Today, Rorstrand vases are celebrated for their timeless elegance, refined execution, and enduring influence in modern design.
At auction, right now, a pre-sale estimate should be in the range of $5,000 to $7,000.
Really?
Yes.
Really. No wonder I loved it so much.
To the best of my knowledge, they're Japanese cloisonne. I believe that they were produced between the late 18 and maybe 19 20s.
The smaller one at the end, do you recall when you bought that?
Yes, we bought it in London in 1971, and it was at a very large antique fair in London. And it was, I believe, around $200.
Right. And the one in the center?
That one, my husband and I can't remember exactly when we got it, but it was probably before 1982, and it was probably purchased in Italy. I believe it was between $300 and $400. Those were also in Italy. Those were in an antique store in Venice, and it was about $900 for the two.
The overall quality of the cloisonne is very, very fine. These are examples that fall within the Meiji period, which is approximately 1875 to 1915.
The Meiji period in Japan was a time of profound transformation, politically, socially, and artistically. As the country opened to international trade, craftsmen began creating works that blended traditional Japanese artistry with global appeal. Cloisonne enamel, practiced in Japan since the 17th century, reached its technical and artistic peak during the late 19th century. Kyoto and Tokyo workshops perfected ultra-fine wirework, or cloisons, to separate enamel colors and create intricate, highly detailed designs, as seen in these examples. Artisans employed plique-à-jour effects and subtle shading to add depth, while high-fired glazes produced luminous, jewel-like colors that were both stable and glossy. Japanese cloisonne gained international acclaim, exhibited at world fairs, such as the 1889 Paris Exposition Universelle, where precision, innovation, and sophistication were celebrated. Many pieces were commissioned for export, combining traditional motifs with Art Nouveau influences to appeal to Western tastes.
They're in excellent overall condition. As a collection of 4, I would think a conservative auction estimate would be between $8,000 and $12,000.
I brought some vases that my husband gave me for Christmas 2 years ago.
Do you know what they are?
Fairly old, from I think the 1930s, and that's about it.
They're French art glass.
Okay.
And they were made by Auguste Legras, and they're signed Legras. Probably made a little bit earlier than what you think, probably about 1900 to 1910.
By the turn of the 20th century, Emile Galle's innovations in French glass had inspired a wave of creative workshops in Nancy and Paris, among which François-Théodore Legras and Sieyès became a leading producer of Art Nouveau glassware. Around 1905, Legras was at the height of its cameo, glass production, a technique that transformed ordinary glass into luminous, sculptural art. Cameo glass involved layering differently colored glass and then carving or etching through the upper layers to reveal intricate designs in relief. Legras perfected this process, creating vases adorned with botanical motifs and flowing, naturalistic forms that embodied Art Nouveau's sinuous lines and organic movement. Subtle gradations of color, where pale layers are carved to reveal darker backgrounds, add depth and contrast. These vases are valued not merely as decorative objects, but as artworks in glass, capturing a moment when French artisans elevated functional vessels into exquisite sculptural forms.
At auction, they would sell between $500 and $800.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Absolutely.
Cool.
They're great pieces.
I got this from my mother. She and my father started in the antiques hobby when I was in high school. And once or twice, I asked her for a piece. And first couple she gave to me, and then she started selling them to me. So I bought this vase from my mother.
Well, that's interesting. Not many people actually buy things from their mother. But in this case, I think it might be appropriate because she was in business. What did you pay for it?
I believe I paid $125, and it was about 40 years ago. I know it's Royal Worcester, and that's really about it.
Well, let's look at the mark first on the bottom. It does say Royal Worcester and made in England. And then there's also a number. It might be a shape or a pattern number. But between the words Royal Worcester and made in England, there's a tiny mark, 3 interlocking circles and 4 little dots. And that tells me that this was made in 1936.
By the mid-1930s, Royal Worcester had established itself as one of Britain's most esteemed porcelain manufactories. with roots tracing back to 18th century soft paste wares celebrated for their translucency and painterly quality. The interwar period brought both continuity and change. While the firm maintained its tradition of hand-painted decoration and technical excellence, it increasingly embraced streamlined forms and modern motifs in line with Art Deco sensibilities. Vases from this period, like this example, exemplify that stylistic transition. The era favored elongated silhouettes, controlled curves, and an understated elegance that moved away from the Victorian preference for elaborate ornament. Crafted in fine, hard-paste porcelain, this vase features a smooth, polished glaze and a sharply rendered scene of cattle grazing in a pasture, demonstrating both technical skill and aesthetic refinement. Though produced in limited numbers, the survival of pristine examples makes Royal Worcester vases from the 1930s highly prized by collectors and museums alike.
These days, a retail price on this would be between $500 and $750.
Very good.
My mother bought it in the mid-70s in north central Indiana. After she passed away, nobody wanted it. Okay. And so we ended up with it. And looking at it, we discovered the Galle signature on it.
Okay. It's a fire polish piece, which is the cameo is cut, and then there's polish with heat after that. It's nicely done with a green color. Here is the signature here, Galle. And of course, Emile Galle was a premier glassmaker and then previously had been known as a premier jeweler.
His cameo glass technique involved carving or etching through multiple layers of differently colored glass to reveal intricate relief designs, often depicting flora, fauna, or flowing natural motifs. Galle's vases are celebrated for their botanical accuracy, dynamic composition, and subtle color gradations, with every leaf, flower, and stem capturing light and shadow. By the early 20th century, his workshop had perfected the production of high-relief cameo glass with delicate acid etching, creating dramatic contrasts of color and texture as exemplified by this vase. Even after Galle's death in 1904, his designs continued to influence French glassmaking. Early 20th century pieces from his workshop, or by artisans working in his style, are regarded as both art historical treasures and technical marvels, combining sculptural precision, luminous color, and the lyrical vitality of nature. Galle's vases remain prized as masterpieces of decorative art, embodying the sophistication of French Art Nouveau and the enduring legacy of one of glassmaking's greatest innovators.
This is a nice big piece, nice palette, nice interior color. I would say probably $3,000 to $5,000 at auction.
Wonderful.
At auction, yeah.
Wonderful.
Okay?
Very good.
Thank you for bringing it in. It's
Right,
always a
thank
pleasure
you.
to see very nice glass.
Thank
yeah.
you.
It's not often that an author's book has a lot of impact on the market for American ceramics, but when Peter Mayle's book, A Year in Provence, came out a few years back, it sparked a lot of interest in sunflowers, and your Roseville vase is a sunflower pattern, and the market for Roseville sunflower tripled in the span of one publication of that book. And so you've had this for a while. You said this was in a guest cabin?
Yes, it's in a cottage that we have at the lake. I saw a picture of it in a book, and I said to my husband, don't we have a vase like that? And he brought it home.
You had a question about some of the markings on the bottom?
Yes, it has a paper label, and I didn't know what the 492 meant.
Well, the paper label is typical Roseville mark from the 20s. This piece dates to about 1925, 1930 maybe.
By the mid-1920s, the Roseville Pottery Company of Ohio had established itself as a leader in American art pottery, celebrated for combining accessible craftsmanship with artistic design. Among its most popular motifs was the Sunflower series, introduced around 1920, which reflected both the arts and crafts movement and a distinctly American naturalistic aesthetic. The sunflower vase features low-relief molded decoration with large, stylized blossoms and leaves enhanced by subtle matte glazes. Roseville artisans applied hand-colored glazes over carefully sculpted forms, giving each piece depth, texture, and individuality. Although production was scaled industrially, every vase retained the warmth and craftsmanship that collectors prize. Roseville sunflower vases remain quintessential examples of American art pottery, embodying the ideals of handcraft, natural beauty, and domestic artistry that defined the era.
A piece like this, evaluation somewhere between $2,000 and $2,500 on a pot like this.
She picked out this vase. That was probably in the 50s. And then I was at her house and I saw this vase sitting on the window ledge with a cat working around it. And I said to my husband, I was afraid the cat was going to break it. I wonder if she would let me have it. So I asked her if there's anything that she wanted, and she wanted a new blanket from the Montgomery Ward catalog. So I told her, I'll pay for the blanket if I can have the vase, and she said, it's a deal.
Well, that was a good way to acquire this. I'm sure you took very good care of it over the years.
I did.
This is a Quezal vase, and this was made in around 1920 in New York. There's a signature on the bottom. It says Quezal.
The Quezal Glass Company, founded in New Jersey in 1901 by Thomas L. Jones, became one of America's most innovative glassmakers of the early 20th century. By the 1920s, Quezal was producing some of its most celebrated works, iridescent art glass vases that captured the spirit of the American Art Nouveau and aesthetic movements while rivaling contemporary European production. Quezal vases were distinguished by their deep, shimmering colors and subtle metallic iridescence achieved through proprietary chemical treatments applied during or after the glass-blowing process. This vase exemplifies their artistry, featuring striking green feathering that creates a dynamic, flowing surface pattern. Quezal glass appealed to collectors and connoisseurs who valued technical innovation and aesthetic sophistication, reflecting a distinctly American interpretation of the European iridescent glass craze inspired by artists such as Loetz and Tiffany. Today, these vases are prized for their rarity, craftsmanship, and pioneering use of iridescence, standing as a testament to the creativity of the American art glass movement during a period of industrial expansion and artistic experimentation.
This particular vase, I would estimate to be worth about $1,500.
Oh!
Well, that was a nice surprise,
Splendid,
right?
Splendid.
Yes.
Not bad for just a blanket.
For a blanket, I think you did very well.
It's been in our family for a long time. I've seen it ever since I've been a little girl.
And have you always lived in the Midwest?
Yes, grew up here in Milwaukee.
We call this the Morgan vase. It was modeled after a Chinese porcelain vase, which was a famous vase sold by a member of the Morgan family, Mary Morgan, who sold it at auction in Baltimore in 1886. The original Morgan vase was made in a porcelain with a kind of glaze that is known in Chinese porcelain as peach bloom.
The Morgan vase is a celebrated example of early 20th century porcelain artistry, drawing on centuries of Chinese ceramic tradition while incorporating Western design sensibilities. Its defining feature is the peach blow glaze, a soft, iridescent surface originally perfected in Qing dynasty porcelain, admired for its delicate gradations of pink, red, and coral that evoke the blush of a ripened peach. To create a Morgan vase, the porcelain body is shaped and fired, then coated with multiple glaze layers, each carefully formulated and fired to achieve a luminous, flowing surface. The glaze naturally pools and blends during firing, giving each piece a unique variation reminiscent of subtle skin tones or flower petals. Today, Morgan vases with peach blow glaze are prized for their rarity, technical sophistication, and understated beauty. Objects that capture a moment when porcelain artistry and glaze chemistry converge to create enduring elegance.
Today, at auction, one in this state would certainly be worth at least $2,000.
Really?
Perhaps as much as $2,200 or $2,500.
It was my grandparents given to my mother, and then it was passed on to me.
And they came from where?
From England.
Okay. It's Minton Pottery. Minton, known as much for their porcelain and their tablewares, but they also did some very, very fine pottery. It is a secessionist-style piece taken from the Austrian secessionist movement. If you look at the bottom, it is actually signed Minton. It has a fleur-de-lis mark, and the fleur-de-lis mark actually dates 1910, which is right at the right time for the movement.
By 1910, the famed Minton Porcelain Company of Stoke-on-Trent, England, had been a leader in fine ceramics for well over a century, celebrated for its technical mastery, innovation, and collaborations with leading artists. During this period, Minton embraced the secessionist style, a European movement closely associated with the Vienna Secession that sought to break from historicist traditions and promote modern, expressive decorative arts. The secessionist influence is evident in this vase's design, with geometric motifs, stylized floral patterns, and bold, modern shapes that move beyond conventional European vase forms toward freer, asymmetrical silhouettes. Its vibrant yet controlled glaze highlights the surface texture and emphasizes design over mere ornamentation. The vase exemplifies the secessionist principle of uniting form, color, and function, demonstrating that decorative art can integrate artistic vision with aesthetic coherence. Today, a Minton secessionist vase from this period is prized not only for its technical excellence, but also as a document of early modernist experimentation in ceramics.
Today, a piece like this could realistically figure to sell for about $2,000 to $3,000. It's a marvelous piece.
Thank you very much.
This piece belonged to my grandmother, and then she gave it to my mother. And as a child, I used to sit and hold this piece. I thought it was just really beautiful. I loved the color of it. And then my mother gave it to me.
So, and you've been taking care of it ever since?
Yes, I have.
Rookwood was the finest of the hand-painted potteries in America, really a world-class pottery, and everything they did was first class, and this piece is no exception. It's a piece of silver overlay. The silver was not done by Rookwood, but it was contracted by Rookwood from the Gorham Silver Company, which is one of the major silver manufacturers in America. The mark on the side, right over here, is the Gorham Silver Company mark, the anchor mark. This is typical of the later silver overlay. The date on this piece, 1903, and it's a little later for standard glaze Rookwood, which this is, and for silver overlay, which this is.
During the early 20th century, Rookwood wasn't just making pretty art pottery anymore. They were pushing into something more ambitious. American taste was shifting toward luxury objects that mixed materials and craftsmanship, and Rookwood saw an opportunity to create pieces that felt modern, refined, and a little bit glamorous. That's where the silver overlay vases come in. They debuted in the very early 1900s and really hit their stride around 1903. The process was surprisingly collaborative. Rookwood handled the ceramic body, usually in a soft vellum glaze with delicate floral painting, and then sent the finished vase off to a specialist metalsmith, in this case, the Gorham Silver Company, to complete the overlay work. Gorham would apply liquid silver to the surface, fire it, and then chase it by hand into swirling patterns, little cartouches, or stylized floral bands. The end result is all about contrast. Matte, painterly ceramic against bright, reflective silver. It feels like ceramics and jewelry merged into one object, and these pieces weren't just technically impressive. They were expensive. Coordinating between two crafts industries meant more labor, more artistry, and a much higher price tag. Rookwood marketed them to elite buyers who wanted handcrafted, modern objects for the home. A very different vibe from the heavy Victorian decor that was falling out of fashion. So today, silver overlay Rookwood sits at this really interesting crossroads. American studio ceramics, Art Nouveau design language, and luxury metal smithing, all wrapped into a single piece.
This one has none of that because there's no crazing on it, so it's retained this really crisp, beautiful appearance to it. So all that being said, that's a lot of information, but it's a lovely piece, and it's worth $1,500 to $2,000.
That's
Thank
great.
you very much.
Thank you.
A neighbor of my father's gave it to him in 1970, and my mother didn't like it, so my father gave it to me, and I've enjoyed it ever since.
Well, let me tell you a few things about it.
Okay.
One of the most famous potteries made in America was the Rookwood pottery from Cincinnati, Ohio. And they were so famous that many people tried to copy what they did and capitalize on their success. And one of the more popular glazes that Rookwood produced late part of the 19th century was their standard brown glaze. And it was a brown coating that covered flowers and portraits and all sorts of designs. And neighboring Zanesville, Ohio, about 90 miles away, had a number of companies that were copying work done by Rookwood. There's the Weller and Roseville, and this is an example of the Owens Pottery Company made in Zanesville, Ohio.
At the turn of the 20th century, the J.B. Owens Pottery Company of Zanesville, Ohio, was quickly becoming one of the most innovative rivals to the much larger and far more famous Rookwood. Owens wasn't afraid to experiment. They tried everything: matte glazes, molded forms, and all sorts of decorative techniques. But the pieces that really set them apart were their portrait vases. These began appearing in the late 1890s and continued into the first decade of the 1900s. Portrait vases captured a moment when American art pottery wanted to be more than just decorative. It wanted to enter the realm of fine art. Owens artists looked to European portrait miniatures, Italian Renaissance maiolica, and late 19th century academic portraiture for inspiration. Instead of floral motifs or abstract patterns, they started painting actual people, usually elegant women, directly onto the ceramic surface. This particular vase takes that idea in a different direction. Instead of a society lady, we get a half-length portrait of a monk, bottle in hand, pouring into what looks like a small glass. It's a little humorous, a little narrative, and very much in keeping with Owens' willingness to play with character and expression. Creating these vases was no small task. Artists worked over a glazed or engobe surface using layers of opaque and semi-transparent pigments. After firing, the result had a rich, velvety finish, almost cameo-like, with the figure glowing against a softly colored background. Owens' portrait vases capture everything that made Art Nouveau fascinating: beauty, personality, and the expressive human face. At the same time, they reflect a distinctly American confidence and curiosity at the dawn of the 20th century, when pottery wasn't just craft, but culture.
So while worth less than it would be if it were a piece of Rookwood, it still has a fair amount of value on today's market. The condition, by the way, is excellent, really perfect original condition.
Yep.
I would clean it up. I'd say it's worth about $2,500 reasonably. So.
You mentioned when you first came to my table that you bought these items at auction and that you're an auction buyer. Can you tell me a little bit about the happening when you bought these pieces?
I just bought them at an auction out in the country where he sells things from $1 to $1,000, couple thousand, depending on what it is.
And were they cataloged?
No, you're on your own. If you decide it's worth something, it's up to you to bid how much you want to.
Right. Well, when I saw you taking these out of your bag today, I realized what they were trying to be. They're trying to be glass by Louis Comfort Tiffany, made at the turn of the century. In fact, they're not.
They're not, huh?
The shape, the iridescence, the quality of the glass, they're really much, much too heavy and not lyrical, not fanciful enough to be Tiffany.
When Louis Comfort Tiffany and Tiffany Studios introduced Favrile glass at the turn of the 20th century, critics immediately saw it as an American counterpart to French Art Nouveau. Luxurious, handcrafted, and scientifically daring. Favrile's iridescent skins, metallic lusters, pulled feather patterns, and botanical silhouettes made Tiffany a byword for modern taste, and by 1910, the name had become inseparable from artistic prestige. Paradoxically, that very success helped spawn an afterlife of imitation. In the 1920s and 1930s, as Tiffany Studios collapsed and liquidation sales released genuine works into the market, dealers, studio glassmakers, and hobbyists recognized that the Tiffany look, especially shimmering vases and paperweights, could be copied. Early forgeries from this period were often unsigned or given ambiguous acid stamps and scratched initials that hinted at authorship without explicitly claiming it. The works shown here go a step further. They bear outright forged signatures. Most of these forgeries were made in the United States by small studios or industrial glass shops experimenting with luster techniques of their own. While they hold little value as Tiffany, they have begun to find a niche among collectors as artifacts of deception, objects that document how reputation, scarcity, and desire continually reshape the art market.
They are worth considerably less than you paid for them. They are worth about $30 for this paperweight, which Tiffany would not have produced anything quite like this. And this fluoroform vase is worth probably $150 to $200. But you can enjoy them.
I've had it probably almost 20 years.
Really
My wife brought it home one day. She bought it from a lady she knew in town. We just used it as an umbrella stand. She didn't really like the color that much, so we just kind of stuck it away.
The color's not very likable. In fact,
right.
Do you mind if I scrape away at it a bit?
Go ahead and try it.
Okay, because what happens is this green, this really nasty green that's on it, yields to this robin's egg blue, which is a color Van Briggle was very well known for.
Van Briggle pottery emerged at the turn of the 20th century as one of the most distinctive voices in American art ceramics. Founded by Artus Van Briggle, the studio became celebrated for its matte glazes, sculptural forms, and close ties to the Art Nouveau movement, establishing a style that is both innovative and instantly recognizable. The craftsmanship of Van Briggle vases lies in their carefully modeled shapes and advanced glaze chemistry. Each piece is thoughtfully formed to achieve balance and rhythm, while the matte glazes are layered and fired with exceptional precision, resulting in the soft, velvety surfaces that define the studio's work. In the year 1906, when this vase was made, the Van Briggle studio stood at a pivotal moment in its development. Works from this period, often clearly dated on the base, reflect the early maturity of the workshop's aesthetic vision and growing technical confidence, making them especially important to collectors. This particular vase stands out for its rare form and uncommon size, qualities that significantly enhance its desirability. While Van Briggle produces many recognizable standard shapes, experimental or limited forms appear far less frequently. The scale and proportions of this example set it apart, suggesting either a special commission or a brief exploration of a unique design. Overall, this 1906 Van Briggle vase represents a refined synthesis of artistic vision and technical mastery. Its elegant form, clear period dating, and rarity elevate it beyond a decorative object, positioning it as a significant example of early American art pottery and a lasting testament to Van Briggle's enduring influence.
This is a monster. It's a very rare form. It's early enough, and so I was really tickled to see it. Believe it or not, it's a $10,000 pot.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful.
I brought a piece of Murano glass. My father was a security salesman in Portland, Oregon, and occasionally some of his clients would give him a gift as a thank you for the work he was doing, and this was a piece that they gave to him.
And when did you acquire it?
I think it was probably in the early 70s. It was on display in our family home, but actually my taste is a little bit more Asian and Chinese art, so it's really been packed away for years. But I've always been curious if it's a piece of tourist glass or if it's actually an art piece of glass. So just wanted to understand a little bit more about its history.
Well, it is a piece of art glass, that I can
good.
assure you. It was actually made at a company called Capelin Venini, or Venini.
Capelin Venini stands among the greatest names in Murano glassmaking, celebrated for redefining Italian glass in the early 20th century. Founded through the collaboration of Paolo Venini and Giacomo Capellin, the firm blends artistic vision with technical mastery, producing works that elevate glass from craft to fine art. The history of Capelin Venini is marked by a remarkable gift for excellence. Drawing inspiration from Renaissance art, classical forms and modern design, the workshop attracts leading artists and designers of its time. Each piece reflects a balance between tradition and experimentation, making their glass instantly recognizable and highly sought after. This particular vase, known as the Veronese vase, takes its inspiration from the Italian painter Carlo Veronese, whose work is renowned for richness, harmony, and dramatic color. The vase echoes those qualities through its form and coloration, translating painterly sensibility into luminous glass. It stands as a tribute to Italian artistic heritage interpreted through Murano craftsmanship. The mark on the base dates this piece to around 1930, a significant period for Venini production. During this era, the firm is actively exploring new techniques and stylistic directions, moving toward modernism while still honoring classical influence. Vases from this time capture a moment of transition and creative freedom within the studio. One notable characteristic of Veronese vases from this period is the presence of subtle imperfections. Slight variations in thickness, tiny bubbles, or gentle asymmetries are not flaws, but evidence of hand craftsmanship, reflecting the experimental nature of Venini glassmaking during the early 1930s. In conclusion, this Venini Veronese vase embodies the brilliance of Capellian Venini at its height. Its artistic inspiration, period significance, and handmade character combine to create a piece of enduring beauty, valued not only as decorative glass, but as an important expression of Italian design history.
So in terms of value, I would put a retail value on this piece of $3,000 to $4,000.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, super.
We call it the green bowl because we don't know anything else about it. It was a gift from a friend who's, I apologized for giving her age on national TV, but she's 82 and she knew that I liked all things Chinese and brought it to me and said I should have it. She was given it as a gift by her grandparents, and she said that her grandparents brought it out of China after the war. I don't know which war. My guess would be that it's Peking glass.
Well, it's a good guess to think that it is Chinese.
Oh, okay.
Mainly because of the design on it, which is a chrysanthemum design. And this was made definitely in the Chinese taste. It was intended to look Chinese.
Ah, okay.
However, it's not. It's actually American.
Really?
It was made in upstate New York, in Corning, New York, at Steuben.
Steuben Glass Works is renowned as one of the most important American glass manufacturers, celebrated for its technical innovation, refined aesthetics, and exceptional craftsmanship. Founded in the early 20th century, Steuben quickly earns a reputation for producing luxury glass objects that rival the finest European examples, becoming synonymous with quality, artistry, and experimentation. The company's most celebrated period is closely tied to the leadership of Frederick Carder, whose tenure defines Steuben's golden era. Under Carder's direction, the studio explores bold colors, complex techniques, and intricate surface decoration. It is during this time that Steuben produces some of its most imaginative and technically accomplished works, including acid-cut vases such as this example. This vase is crafted in a rich jade green glass and finished using the acid-cut technique, a demanding process that involves applying acid to selectively etched areas of the surface. The method allows for precise control over depth and texture, creating crisp contrasts between matte and polished glass. The decorative motif on this vase is the chrysanthemum, a flower long associated with longevity, elegance, and refinement. Rendered through acid cutting, the design appears softly sculpted into the glass, giving the floral elements depth and movement while maintaining an overall sense of harmony. The chrysanthemum motif reflects Steuben's interest in natural forms interpreted through refined modern design. Finding an acid-cut jade green Steuben vase from this period is exceptionally rare. Many pieces from the Carter era were produced in limited numbers, and acid-cut examples are particularly scarce due to the complexity of the technique and the fragility of the process. Survival in excellent condition further enhances the desirability of such works. In summary, this Steuben acid-cut vase stands as a remarkable example of American glass artistry from the late 1920s. Its association with Frederick Carder, mastery of acid-cut decoration, and elegant chrysanthemum design combined to make it not only a decorative object of great beauty, but also a significant and highly collectible piece of glass history.
Today, in a retail shop, this would sell for between $3,000 and $3,500.
Wow.
So it was a very nice gift.
Yes, it was.
My mom acquired it about 50 years ago at an estate sale at our small town in Nebraska. It was the estate sale of the law partner of my grandfather, who had done a lot of traveling, and we picked up a couple things, and I was about 5 years old.
Do you know what she paid for it?
I have no idea. She was young and married, had 3 little kids, so it couldn't have been much.
What you have is a piece of California faience pottery.
The history of California faience is closely tied to the creative energy of the 1920s, a period when West Coast studios actively experimented with form, glaze, and surface design. The workshop becomes known for its richly colored glazes, sculptural modeling, and willingness to draw inspiration from nature. Every piece is crafted by hand, with individuality favored over uniformity, giving the work a strong and expressive artistic presence. California faience is born from a distinctive vision rooted in artistic independence and regional identity. Founded in Los Angeles, the firm embraces a philosophy that seeks to elevate everyday objects into works of art. Hand craftsmanship, organic form, and bold surface decoration define its output, positioning California faience as a uniquely Californian voice within the broader American ceramics movement. Vase making sits at the heart of the studio's production, and the designs clearly reflect the ideals of the arts and crafts movement as interpreted on the West Coast. Rather than strict symmetry, these works favor natural growth patterns, tactile surfaces, and forms inspired by the surrounding landscape. This approach aligns with a regional aesthetic that celebrates nature, craftsmanship, and a rejection of industrial excess. This particular vase exemplifies those principles through its molded vegetal form. Shaped as a large gourd with a pronounced pod emerging at the front, the piece feels both sculptural and alive. The modeling suggests growth and vitality, transforming the vessel into a botanical study rendered in ceramic rather than a purely functional object. The craftsmanship required to achieve such a form is considerable, as molded ceramics demand precision to maintain balance and structural integrity. The successful translation of a natural gourd into clay reflects the studio's technical skill and artistic sensitivity, hallmarks of California faience during this influential period.
In a fine shop that sells American art pottery and specializes in California pottery, this might bring from $1,000 to $1,500.
That's great. That's great.
I'm an avid flea market and estate sailor, and I went into an estate sale and I saw this vase and I was kind of attracted to it, and I picked it up and it was so heavy, and then I looked at the bottom and I saw an etching on it. I couldn't really completely make it out, and it was priced at $40, and I thought, well, this is pretty monumental, a good-sized piece. I think I'll get it.
And did you go research it?
I did go research it, and I got a magnifying glass on the label. It says Steuben on the bottom, but all my research has Steuben as clear glass and generally figurines.
Well, this particular glass is semi-transparent.
Semi-transparent glass occupies a special place in the history of decorative arts, offering a balance between opacity and light that allows form and color to interact in subtle, atmospheric ways. The Steuben Glass Company became one of the foremost innovators in this area, mastering techniques that give their glass a soft inner glow while preserving clarity and elegance. Steuben's reputation is built on technical excellence and artistic ambition, particularly during the early 20th century under the influence of Frederick Carder. The company produces a wide range of vases celebrated for refined shapes, experimental colors, and advanced glass formulas. Their ability to control translucency sets Steuben apart, allowing light to pass gently through the glass rather than reflect sharply from the surface. This particular example is a Steuben Clothra vase, a type of glass known for its semi-transparent quality and luminous depth. Rendered in a delicate lavender tone, the vase dates to around 1920, a period when Steuben is at the height of its creative experimentation. The color is subtle yet expressive, shifting softly as light moves through the glass. The form, identified as shape number 2683, contributes significantly to the vase's appeal. Its proportions are elegant and restrained, designed to complement rather than overpower the nuanced coloration. The combination of this specific shape with semi-transparent Clothra glass is uncommon, adding to the rarity and desirability of the piece. Clothra glass itself reflects the era's fascination with atmosphere and mood in decorative objects. Rather than bold ornamentation, the emphasis lies in tone, light, and form, qualities that align closely with early modernist sensibilities emerging during this time. In conclusion, this Steuben Clothra vase stands as a refined expression of early 20th century American glassmaking. Its lavender hue, rare semi-transparent quality, and carefully considered form exemplify Steuben's artistic and technical achievements, securing its place as a quietly sophisticated and highly collectible work from the 1920s.
So this particular piece today would be worth about $2,500.
Get out!
And that would be for insurance.
Wow.
So your $40 was amazing.
We went to a garage sale. I bought this piece for $2, and I went to an estate sale and bought that piece there for $20.
You bought them because you like them? Do you have any idea what they are?
I don't know, but we been to several of these road shows, and we went to one in Mobile, and we brought some pieces, and you all told us they were Loetz, and so I've liked them ever since, the color, and so that's why I bought that one. And this was just sitting in a window, and the color caught my eye when I was leaving. I turned around and picked it up and saw $2. That's what they had.
Well, Loetz was a company in Austria that did lots of iridescent glass in the early 1900s.
Loetz was celebrated for technical innovation and refined surface effects. Their workshops pushed the boundaries of iridescent glass, combining artistic vision with advanced blowing techniques that set them apart from their contemporaries. The first vase is a Loetz example, finished in a rich iridescent surface and blown from the bottom, a demanding method that allowed for greater control of form and decoration. This approach reflects the company's emphasis on precision and experimentation during its most creative years. This vase is known as Candia silveriris Astartig. Candia refers to the model shape, while silveriris describes the silvery iridescent finish. Astartig identifies the distinctive dimpled texture, which enhances light reflection and gives the surface a lively, tactile quality. The second vase, rendered in green, is Bohemian in origin. Bohemian glassmakers were equally respected for their technical skill and expressive forms, often favoring bold colors and fluid silhouettes that distinguish their regional style. Unlike the Loetz piece, this Bohemian vase was blown from the top rather than the bottom, a less common technique that alters the distribution of glass and subtly changes the vessel's balance and character. This contrast highlights the diversity of methods used in Central European glassmaking. Together, these vases showcase two master traditions, working with iridescence in different yet equally compelling ways. Their varied techniques, finishes, and origins make them a striking pairing and a vivid representation of early 20th century Bohemian glass artistry.
I will tell you that the Bohemian one, a retail value would be about $150. The one you paid less for, the Loetz piece, has a retail value of about $1,500.
Well, it's been in my family for as long as I can remember. I remember going down to Brownsville and seeing it at my grandmother's house. Not sure exactly how it came into the family, but...
And do you have any idea as to its age?
No, I know it's nice because we can put your finger and you can feel the paint or whatever, the enamel that's on it, and so it tells me I think it's a little bit nicer than the ordinary vase.
Okay, well, let's start with the material. In this case, it's a porcelain.
Porcelain has long been one of the most prized materials for making vases, valued for its strength, translucency, and refined surface. In China, porcelain vessels were not only functional, but also served as important artistic and cultural expressions, often reserved for elite use. This vase exemplifies the tradition of combining porcelain with enamel decoration. While some pieces relied on molded or relief designs, the enamels here are carefully painted by hand, demonstrating precision and control that elevate the surface into a pictorial work of art. The decorative program includes richly enameled Indian lotus flowers, symbols of purity and renewal, which were especially popular around the year 1900. These floral motifs are paired with the ruyi, an auspicious mushroom-shaped symbol associated with good fortune and longevity. Further enhancing the composition are celestial landscapes populated with figurines, a visual language closely associated with Chinese decorative arts. Such scenes often reference harmony between the earthly and spiritual realms, helping to firmly place the cultural origin of the vase. This attribution is confirmed by the presence of a Qianlong mark, referencing the Qing dynasty reign known for artistic refinement and technical excellence. Although marks were sometimes used honorifically, they still reflect reverence for that celebrated era. Overall, this vase stands as a refined example of Chinese porcelain artistry, uniting symbolic imagery, painted enamels, and historical reference. Its layered decoration and cultural richness make it both visually compelling and historically meaningful.
Now we come to value. In a retail setting, this vase would carry a price tag of $12,000 to $15,000.
Wow. That's more than I thought.
They're two Galle vases from France. I got them from my mother. She and my dad bought them in the early 50s.
Do you know anything more about them other than that?
It's cameo glass. I believe that they're blown from the bottom up.
Okay.
And then the other glass is layered onto the frost.
Well, do you remember what your mother paid for these? Or?
No, I don't. But in the 80s, I think, my father had them appraised in Atlanta.
Okay.
And they were appraised at $800 for the pair.
Okay.
Daddy felt like he didn't really know what they were.
Okay, well, let me tell you a little bit of what I know about them. Of course, Emile Galle died in 1904.
Before his death, Emile Galle was celebrated as one of the great masters of Art Nouveau glass, renowned for transforming natural forms into poetic works of art. His work consistently bridges art, science, and symbolism, placing him at the forefront of modern decorative design. Around circa 1900, Galle's brilliance reaches its height, marked by technical innovation and expressive freedom. His glass-making during this period reflects exceptional control of materials, color layering, and surface treatment, all guided by a deep appreciation for nature. These cameo glass vases, created as a matched pair, are especially significant, as Galle rarely produced identical companion pieces. The presence of a pair speaks to deliberate design intention and elevates their rarity and collectability. The decoration on the vases features floral motifs inspired by local French plants, a hallmark of Galle's philosophy. Rather than idealized forms, the flowers are interpreted with organic movement, grounding the work in the natural landscape of France. A fire polishing technique is applied to the surface, giving the glass a luminous, glossy finish. This process softens the carved layers and enhances depth, allowing light to move fluidly across the designs. Together, these vases stand as refined expressions of Galle's vision, combining technical mastery with natural beauty. As a pair, they offer a rare and compelling glimpse into the artistic legacy he defines at the turn of the century.
Do you have any idea of what their value is?
No, I don't.
Okay. Well, I think that a safe conservative auction estimate for the pair would be $4,000 to $6,000.
Wow.
Okay?
Yeah.
And
Well, that's-
again, they're very nice pieces.
This vase was my grandfather's. He visited China for over a year in the 1920s, and it has just come down through the family. We thought that it was very old, and there is a marking on the bottom that doesn't seem to be a stamp. It seems to be painted on, so we thought maybe it was a real thing. We were under the impression that it was from China.
Well, actually, it's not from China.
It's not from China.
It's Japanese, but I can certainly understand why you might have thought that it was Chinese. The artist who created this, Makuzu Kozan, was one of the most important Meiji period, that would be 19th century into the 20th century, artists.
Makuzu Kozan is regarded as one of Japan's most accomplished ceramic artists of his time, celebrated for his technical mastery and scholarly approach to design. He is known for pushing porcelain beyond decorative appeal, treating it as a medium for cultural dialogue and historical reference. A defining aspect of Kozan's work is his admiration for Chinese art, which is clearly expressed in this vase dating to circa 1898. Rather than imitating superficially, he carefully studies classical Chinese forms and adapts them through a refined Japanese sensibility. The motifs and embossed designs emerging through the ground of the vase draw directly from ancient Chinese bronzes. These raised patterns, balanced and deliberate, echo archaic ritual vessels and demonstrate Kozan's deep understanding of Chinese visual language. His respect for Chinese culture is further emphasized by the signature beneath the vase, written in Chinese characters and executed in underglaze blue. This choice reinforces both authenticity and intention, aligning the work visually and philosophically with Chinese tradition. At the same time, the vase remains distinctly Japanese in its precision, restraint, and harmony. The fusion of Chinese design principles with Japanese craftsmanship results in a piece that feels scholarly yet elegant. This porcelain vase stands as a refined example of cross-cultural artistry. It reflects Makuzu Kozan's ability to honor Chinese antiquity while asserting his own artistic identity, creating a work of enduring beauty and intellectual depth.
It's in excellent condition for its age. At auction, I would put the reserve of $10,000 to $12,000.
Oh my goodness.
It was my mother's, and my mother gave it to me. But my mother inherited it from a friend. Actually, it was a gift. And her friend had it in her home in Palo Alto, California. And she collected this pottery.
It's got some unusual coloring added to it. This dark charcoaling. Would you tell us about that?
You're certainly right about that. In 2003, I had a fire in Cupertino, California, and 95% of my articles, clothing and everything were destroyed. And I got off with my life in a few pieces, and this is one of them. So that is smoke from the fire.
It speaks about the durability of the ceramic arts.
It certainly does.
A lot of folks are familiar with the term the arts and crafts movement, and the arts and crafts movement means many things in many places.
The art and crafts movement emerged as a response to industrial excess, emphasizing honesty of materials, simplicity of form, and the beauty of handcraft. Its ideals spread rapidly and found a strong foothold in Chicago at the turn of the 20th century. When the movement reached Chicago, it directly influenced the formation of the Teco Pottery Company. Teco embraced architectural forms and organic simplicity, producing ceramics that reflected both modern design and handcrafted integrity. Teco vases are known for their sculptural presence, and this example from around 1905 clearly reflects that philosophy. The form is bold yet restrained, allowing structure rather than surface decoration to define its character. This vase features a soft matte green glaze paired with exposed orange clay, a combination that highlights natural materials and subtle contrast. The restrained color palette is typical of Teco's commitment to understated elegance. One of the most distinctive features is the buttressed base and the integrated handles, which resemble architectural supports. These elements give the vase strength, balance, and a sense of grounded permanence. Overall, this buttressed techo vase stands as a classic expression of the art and crafts ideal. Its thoughtful design, honest materials, and architectural form ensure its lasting significance as both a functional object and a sculptural work of art.
This is a good futuristic arts and crafts piece. I would estimate this one somewhere between $3,000 and $5,000 at auction, and it would probably bring somewhere between $4,000 and $6,000. It's a really handsome pot, and I appreciate you bringing it in.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you. I'll clean it up, too.
I think it's Art Nouveau by the Quezal company. They were in the same time as Tiffany, but other than that, I don't really know anything about it.
Okay, and how did you get it?
It belonged to the artist Florence E. Ware, who was a very good friend of my mother, and she gave it to my mother, and then my mother gave it to me. I've had it since the mid-70s.
Well, it is a Quezal vase.
Quezal Art Glass Company emerged in the early 20th century as one of America's most respected art glass studios. The firm became known for its luminous, iridescent surfaces, refined forms, and decorative techniques that rivaled the finest glassmakers of the era. The company's connection to Tiffany and Company is central to its story. Several Quezal founders and artisans had previously worked at Tiffany studios, carrying with them the technical knowledge and aesthetic sensibilities that defined American art glass at the time. As a result, Quezal vases are often closely compared to, and sometimes confused with, Tiffany examples. This vase from around 1910 reflects that shared lineage clearly. It features a rich, iridescent glass surface accented with distinctive triple-hooked decorations, a sculptural detail that adds movement and visual rhythm to the form. While Quezal frequently favored gold and white color palettes, this example stands apart with its blue and purple tones. The unusual coloration enhances its rarity and further strengthens comparisons to Tiffany's more experimental designs. In conclusion, this Quezal vase exemplifies the height of American art glass craftsmanship. Its iridescence, sculptural detailing, and refined color scheme make it an exceptional piece that captures the elegance and innovation of the period while highlighting Quezal's rightful place alongside Tiffany in art glass history.
I would say in a retail setting, I would place the value between $2,500 and $3,500.
Really?
Now, there is one little catch here. What I noticed is there is some scratching on the surface. And the Quezal collectors are very fussy about their condition. It's not a crack, it's not a chip, but nevertheless, it does disturb the decoration. If that weren't there, I would have been more inclined to say $3,000 to $5,000.
I see.
I really don't know a lot about it. I was at my grandparents' house, and then my mother inherited it when they passed on, and it's just always been there, and she really doesn't know where it came from either.
Well, let me tell you a little bit about it. The first thing that I do when I look at a vase like this is I look at the decoration and the form, which is really striking and quite large. It's a very interesting shape, but the mark is going to tell us a lot about this vase. There is a green mark on the bottom. There is a painter's palette with like an artist's brush and little daubs of paint. Then there is a monogram, which is CAC, which stands for Ceramic Art Company. And below that, it says Belleek. Now, normally when we see the word Belleek, we think of Irish Belleek made in Ireland. But at one point, there were a lot of companies in the United States which made things called Belleek. This was made by Lennox. Ceramic Art Company is an early name for Lennox.
Lennox Belleek is celebrated for its exceptional craftsmanship and refined elegance, qualities that set it apart in the world of American porcelain. Its thin, luminous body and delicate surface treatment reflect a high level of technical skill and artistic sensitivity. The history of Lennox Belleek is closely tied to the early development of fine porcelain in the United States. Building on European Belleek traditions, Lennox adapted the style with its own identity, emphasizing strength, precision, and distinctive decorative appeal. Around the year 1900, Lennox Belleek produced vases that balanced traditional techniques with bold artistic expression. This period marked a confident phase in the company's output, when form and decoration were carefully harmonized. This particular vase showcases that moment through its striking, factory-painted floral pattern. The boldness of the design stands out against the refined porcelain body, demonstrating how Lennox Belleek successfully combined durability with visual impact. As a result, this vase represents an important example of early Lennox Belleek production. Its confident decoration, quality manufacture, and period authenticity make it a compelling reflection of American porcelain artistry at the turn of the century.
How much do you think that this might be worth?
Oh, I really have no idea.
Well, to a collector of early Lennox, ceramic art company Lennox today, this vase would probably be worth between $800 and $1,200, which is quite a lot of money for this sort of thing.
That's great. Thank you.
It was given to my boyfriend's stepfather. His first wife was a housekeeper for the Mellons, right here in Pittsburgh on Fifth Avenue, and it was given to her.
And did she know anything about it at all when you acquired it?
I don't think so, because I know at one point she had flowers in it. Live ones.
I can see the remains of some of those flowers up in the top of it. It could use a bath.
Yes.
And you did get it appraised, I understand.
Recently.
And what did the appraiser tell you?
$650.
But he didn't tell you what it was.
It was Japanese pottery.
Well, you brought us something here that's on the cutting edge of what's going on in the art field today. It's the aesthetic movement, which was in the late 19th century. And this is a combination of designs on it that are Chinese, Japanese, and so forth. And this was made by a company called the Faience Manufacturing Company in Greenpoint, New York.
The Faience Manufacturing Company earned a strong reputation in the late 19th century for producing refined and artistically ambitious ceramic wares. Its work stands at the intersection of craftsmanship and decorative art during a formative period in American ceramics. Established in the 1880s, the company quickly distinguishes itself through high-quality glazing and inventive forms. It seeks to elevate pottery from everyday use into objects of visual and artistic importance. A key moment in the company's development comes when skilled china decorators join the firm. Their arrival brings painterly techniques and greater attention to surface design, reshaping the overall aesthetic direction. That influence is clearly visible in this vase, where decoration becomes more expressive and intentional. The form feels carefully considered, with ornamentation integrated rather than applied as an afterthought. The vase features a meticulously articulated neck and an earth realm design at the base. These elements reflect both technical control and artistic imagination, highlighting the firm's peak craftsmanship. Examples of this size and complexity are rarely encountered today. Its presence speaks not only to the skill of its makers, but also to the enduring value of Faience Manufacturing Company ceramics as collectible works of art.
I would say that it has a value just outright of about $1,500, which could go up to, in the right hands, $2,500.
Oh, Evie and Jean are going to be happy. Wow.
So that's what's happening to Faience Manufacturing Company. The value is going up.
Great.
These two they're called scholars pieces. They sit on the scholar's desk and you'd have one flower in them. And I like the monochrome and peach chrome glaze, and when I saw them, got them. This one I bought here in Atlanta from a guy who sells primarily export porcelains, and he calls this domestic, and I like domestic Chinese better than I do export.
They're beautiful monochromes. This is what they refer to as a peach bloom glaze.
Pitch-blown glaze holds a special place in the tradition of Chinese glazed vases, admired for its natural flow and expressive character. The technique allows glaze to move freely across the surface during firing, creating lively and unpredictable effects. Two of the vases presented here employ this pitch-blown glaze method. This approach became especially popular during the 19th century, when potters explored dramatic surface movement and bold visual impact. These 19th century examples show rich color pooling and spontaneous transitions. The glaze appears almost poured by chance, yet it reflects deep technical knowledge and control developed over generations. In contrast, the third vase represents an earlier period of Chinese ceramic production. Its glaze application is far more controlled, particularly visible at the base, placing it in the early 18th century. This earlier vase uses a crushed strawberry glaze, a finish known for its dense texture and refined appearance. Unlike pitch-blown glaze, it emphasizes balance, depth, and deliberate craftsmanship. Together, these three vases demonstrate the relationship between two distinct eras of Chinese glazing. They highlight how ceramic artists shifted between controlled elegance and expressive freedom while preserving exceptional quality and artistic intent.
Any idea of the value of these things?
I paid, I think, about $900 a piece for these, and I paid, I think, $350 for that one.
They're very, very popular because they're such an elegant form. At auction, these two vases would probably sell for $2,500 a piece.
Okay,
These two here. This one, on the other hand, is much, much more desirable. At auction, I would expect this piece to sell for between $8,000 to $10,000.
Whew.
I bought these pieces in England, in Ramsgate, about 20 years ago, early 1990.
Okay, and what took you to Ramsgate's right in the southeast corner of England?
I was there on vacation.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember the antique shop was right off the train platform, so I kind of wandered through there. And what caught my eye is the red color. I liked the red color, and the shop owner said they were Doulton and said that they were good pieces.
This was 20 years ago then you were there, about. And how much did you pay for them then?
I remember on this piece it was around $180, and most of the pieces probably were similar to that. He really reassured me that they were good pieces, so I trusted him.
Well, I think he was right. They are good pieces. They are, as you say, Royal Doulton.
Royal Doulton built its reputation as one of Britain's most respected ceramic firms, known for technical innovation and refined artistic standards. By the early 20th century, the company had become a leader in both decorative and experimental stoneware. Around 1920, Royal Doulton produced a wide range of vases that showcased their mastery of form, glaze, and firing techniques. These works balanced traditional influences with modern studio pottery ideals. This collection is especially notable because it includes two distinct types of Royal Doulton ware. Each reflects a different artistic intention and level of production during that period. The larger vases are known as Qing wares. These were high-fired pieces finished with rich, colorful glazes, often unpredictable in outcome, and they were produced in limited numbers due to the difficulty of the process. The smaller vases belong to the songware category. These were made in greater quantities and are more restrained in appearance, yet they still demonstrate the high quality and consistency Royal Doulton was known for. Together, these vases offer a clear view into Royal Doulton's range during the early 20th century. They illustrate both experimental ambition and successful production, making the group appealing to collectors and historians alike.
The piece closest to you, with a wooden base and cover, which I think are original to the piece, by the way, and work very well with it, I suspect at auction it would bring at least $3,000 today, and maybe $5,000. I think the large one in the middle, which is not quite as complex or interesting in form, might bring a little less despite its size. I would say between $2,000 and $4,000. And I think this one, which is also more conventional but has the effects that people like, would bring about $3,000 to $4,000. The sung pieces are actually doing quite well at auction too. And they're both great ones. They have more color than many, and I would say $1,500 to $2,000 for the one closest to me, and the same for the one with the parrot that you like. So
that's wonderful.
French ceramic works of the 19th century are celebrated for their strong ties to history, literature, and classical art. around the mid-1800s, French makers often looked backward for inspiration, blending technical skill with revived historical styles. This vase reflects that tradition through its clear connection to Renaissance revival aesthetics. During this period, artists reinterpreted Renaissance forms, symbolism, and ornamentation, translating them into ceramic sculpture rather than painting or architecture. The piece is conceived as a sculptural ceramic, boldly carved rather than merely decorated. At the top, two horned heads emerge, giving the vase a dramatic and mythological presence that echoes Renaissance fascination with classical and allegorical figures. Ribbons and garlands flow across the surface, motifs that were central to Renaissance art and symbolized abundance, celebration, and continuity. Their inclusion reinforces the historical language the maker intentionally evokes. What makes this vase especially distinctive is the level of attention given to every side. There is no single viewing angle. Instead, the entire surface is worked in relief, encouraging the viewer to engage with the object in the round. Taken as a whole, this vase stands as a striking example of 19th century French ceramic ambition. Its sculptural depth, historical references, and detailed execution give it lasting artistic presence and strong appeal as a decorative and collectible work.
I would have to say that a retail value would have to fall at least between $4,000 to $6,000 and perhaps more. I just think it's a remarkable, interesting thing.
Very good.
I bought it at a garage sale about 40 years ago.
And what price did you pay 40 years ago?
$10.
$10. Do you know the country of origin?
No, I know absolutely nothing about it. I just saw it and I liked it.
That's the best reason to buy a piece. It's definitively Chinese.
Chinese vase making has long been admired for its technical mastery, symbolic decoration, and refined use of color. From the imperial kilns onward, Chinese potters achieved remarkable control over glaze and enamel, producing works that balanced durability with visual richness. This vase belongs to the Famille Noire tradition, one of the most distinctive families of Chinese enamel wares. Famille Noire pieces are defined by their deep black ground, which serves as a dramatic backdrop for brightly colored floral and symbolic motifs. The craftsmanship of this vase is evident in its glossy black glaze and the finely painted decoration of prunus blossoms. These flowers, often associated with resilience and renewal, are carefully applied in enamel, standing out vividly against the dark surface. The vase is dated to the 18th century, supported by the condition of the foot rim. Its smooth and worn base suggests prolonged contact with surfaces over a long period, a characteristic commonly associated with genuine 18th century examples. Further evidence of age appears inside the vessel, where the interior shows dirt accumulation and wear. The overall softening and loss of enamel detail are consistent with more than 2 centuries of handling and environmental exposure. Adding to its significance is the presence of a Ming mark, specifically a 6-character mark underglazed in blue. While such marks were often used honorifically, their careful execution here, combined with the physical evidence of age, reinforces the historical importance and enduring value of this Famille Noire vase.
Had this been a 19th century vase, the auction estimate would be between $4,000 and $6,000. 100 years difference, these are quite scarce. When they do come onto the marketplace, they're in high demand. So the conservative auction estimate for this vase would be $30,000 to $50,000.
Oh my gosh. Well,
so
I am quite surprised.
What have you brought with you?
A Lalique vase.
Where did you get it?
We got it from a friend. It was a friend who passed away, unfortunately, in 1980 or so. And she went to New York City to model and missed her family, so she came back to Minneapolis to be with her family, and they were friends of the Kellogg's. And that was a gift to her from the Kellogg's.
Kellogg family, okay.
In Minneapolis.
Well, this is a Lalique vase. If we tip this up here, we have a signature, R. Lalique.
A vase bearing the signature of Rene Lalique carries exceptional significance, as his name alone represents innovation, artistry, and the elevation of glass to fine art. Signed Lalique pieces are immediately recognized for their quality and historical importance, marking them as creations of one of the most influential designers of the modern era. Rene Lalique began his career as a master jeweler before revolutionizing the world of glass. By the early 20th century, he had become synonymous with Art Nouveau and later Art Deco design, celebrated for his ability to translate natural forms into refined, sculptural objects using glass as his primary medium. That brilliance directly led to the creation of the espalion vase in 1927. This design reflects Lalique's mature Art Deco period, where form, texture, and restraint come together in a balanced and architectural composition that is both decorative and timeless. The vase is distinguished by its rich blue coloration combined with Lalique's signature frosted finish. This contrast between translucent and satin surfaces enhances depth and light interaction, a technique Lalique perfected and used to dramatic effect in his glass works. Original to the vase, the blue glass and frosting remain key indicators of authenticity and quality. They demonstrate Lalique's control of materials and his commitment to producing objects that were as technically accomplished as they were visually striking. Today, the espalion vase stands as a lasting example of Rene Lalique's legacy. It embodies his vision of glass as sculpture, blending beauty, craftsmanship, and innovation into a single object that continues to captivate collectors and admirers alike.
This vase in blue has sold at auction as much as $5,000.
Really?
$5,000.
Okay.
However, if in fact the rim has been buffed a little bit, that would diminish the value.
Right.
In order to ascertain whether it had been buffed, I'd want to check it against the catalogue raisonné of Lalique's work to see how heavy that lip was and or if it's diminished. If it has been diminished, that would diminish the value by at least half.
I bought them at the local flea market where I live. It's on the west side of El Paso. I like to collect pottery and art glass, mostly. Yeah.
How did you start going? Did your parents take you?
Actually, I call it my dad's flea market because he was the first person to start selling there.
Oh, no kidding. Well, there's a lot of fun to be had in going to flea markets and yard sales. And my advice if you like to go to fleas and you like to go to yard sales is be careful what you buy. Be discriminating. Buy the good things.
Okay.
And these are good things. You know what they are?
Pottery, porcelain.
Yeah, well, you're right the second time.
Porcelain vases have long been admired for their refined surfaces, durability, and ability to serve as both functional objects and decorative art. From their early development, they became symbols of elegance, often displayed prominently on mantelpieces as expressions of taste and status. French porcelain, in particular, gained an international reputation for its artistic quality and technical excellence. French makers were celebrated for combining fine materials with painterly decoration, turning porcelain into a canvas for storytelling, ornament, and sophisticated design. These mantel vases, created as a matched pair around the year 1880, reflect the aesthetic values of their time. The late 19th century was a period when symmetry, harmony, and decorative richness were highly prized, especially in interior decor meant for formal living spaces. On the front of each vase are hand-painted scenes depicting French figures rendered with care and attention to detail. These images reflect contemporary life and costume, adding a narrative quality that brings warmth and character to the porcelain surface. The backs of the vases are equally considered, adorned with floral motifs painted by hand. This decoration demonstrates the maker's commitment to beauty from every angle, a hallmark of high-quality French porcelain from this era. Together, these mantel vases embody the elegance and artistry of 19th-century French porcelain. Their balanced design, painted scenes, and thoughtful ornamentation ensure they remain timeless decorative objects, well suited to both historic and modern settings.
I think today if they were in a good antique shop. You'd see a price on these of at least $600 or maybe as much as $900.
Wow.
And that price is for the pair. You made a great buy.
I did, for $50.
The lady, she was hesitant, but she sold it to me.
And you paid how much for it?
Paid $70.
Well, those are, I guess, penguins walking around the side of it?
The lady who sold it to me told me that a professor had told her that they're rock hopper penguins from Antarctica.
Well, what I don't know about penguins is a lot, but I think I know a few things about this piece. This is a piece of Avon pottery from Wheeling, West Virginia, dating to about 1902 or 1903. There's no artist signature on it. There's no mark on the bottom of the piece. And often Avon is not marked, but there are several things that denote this as an Avon piece. Number one, the shape is an Avon shape. They did not make that much art pottery, and they had relatively few shapes in production for the 2 years they were making art pottery at this level. They did a number of different types of designs at Avon, mostly floral designs. But when I saw the penguins, I knew it was the work of Frederick Reed. He was a young man who was hired away from the Wardle Company in England, where he was the art director at 19 years of age. His friend William P. Jervis was working at Avon and hired Reed to come to the United States, where Reed stayed for the rest of his career.
Trained in the celebrated pottery traditions of England's Staffordshire region, Reed arrived in America with a deep command of decorative technique and a bold willingness to experiment. The Avon line, produced during his brief but influential tenure at Roseville, became one of the earliest expressions of his artistic vision on American soil. Unlike the heavier, more sculptural pottery he would develop later, the Avon pieces embraced a lighter, more lyrical style, and this vase captures that beautifully. Across the form, soft matte glazes create a gentle backdrop, while hand-applied motifs, often inspired by nature, as seen in the gracefully rendered penguins, add a quiet, painterly rhythm. The Frederick Red Avon vase stands as more than an example of early American art pottery. It marks a young designer blending old-world training with a new American aesthetic, leaving behind a piece that still reflects that formative artistic moment.
The fact that it's not marked or not signed really doesn't matter much, because people who know Reed's work know what this is, and his signature is in the work. At auction, I would estimate this for between $2,000 and $3,000, and probably more like $2,500 to $3,500. But to be a little conservative, I think $2,000 to $3,000 at auction is what this piece would be worth.
Well, I did good.
You said you got this from your mom?
I did. My mother attended a night class in the Des Moines Public Schools in the 70s on collecting, and learned about Van Briggle and some of the other art potteries and was interested in them. And she went to a church rummage sale and picked this up. It had a little piece of that very sticky old white fabric medical tape for the longest time. I just took it off a few years ago, and it had 5 cents written on it with a pencil.
Well, it's a sweet piece of Van Briggle, and we've done Van Briggle on the show before, and I think a lot of our viewers will remember the story about how he had tuberculosis and had to leave Ohio to go to Colorado Springs because of the salubrious climate. The high altitude was the best they could offer at that time for someone suffering from TB. And he worked there from around 1900 until his death in 1904. Then his wife Anna continued until around 1912 or 1913, where she sold the company to some investors, and is still in business today.
In the early years of the 20th century, American art pottery was finding its voice, and few studios shaped that emerging language as boldly as Van Briggle. By 1903, the workshop in Colorado Springs had grown into a small but influential force, driven by a passion for reviving the soft, flowing beauty of ancient matte glazes. The forms of pieces like this echo the sweeping curves of early Art Nouveau, a movement that transformed natural elements into elegant sculptural patterns. Rather than painting the flowers onto the surface, artisans let the blossoms and stems rise gently from the clay itself, creating subtle shadows and contours that shifted with the light. Here, the floral motifs are more than decoration. They reflect the studio's belief that true beauty should emerge naturally from the clay.
In terms of value at auction today, conservatively, I would estimate it for between $2,500 and $3,500.
Wow!
Okay, and probably more like $3,000 to $4,000.
Awesome! That's wonderful. My mom would be thrilled.
I inherited it from my mother. She probably purchased this 60 years ago,
Okay.
60 to 65 years ago. She got it at auction.
Do you know what she paid for it?
Well, my mother was known never to pay more than $200 for anything at the auction.
Oh, that's
so.
wonderful. If we turn this upside down, well, I'm not going to go all the way because it's very heavy.
Right.
Can you see the Daum Nancy on the bottom?
Yes, and I had never known that there was anything on the bottom before. I guess
it is a signed piece. So that tells us that this is a Daum piece from France, circa late 19th century into the 20th century. The Daum brothers actually started out making tableware and glassware and covers for dishes, general household items. And then they went to this, which is amazing.
Daum's monumental vases were large-scale masterpieces that transformed functional objects into sculptural art. Through etched and acid-polished layers of colored glass, artisans crafted delicate flowers, curling stems, and softly radiant landscapes. The effect was luminous and almost ethereal, a hallmark of the Art Nouveau movement that celebrated flowing lines and organic forms. Monumental in both size and ambition, these vases were intended to awe. Each piece reflected Daum's dedication to technical mastery, from precise layering of glass to the skillful use of acids that revealed intricate patterns beneath the surface. By 1900, Daum had not only perfected its signature style, but had also become a symbol of French innovation in decorative arts. Monumental vases from this period stand today as testaments to a moment when art, craft, and nature converged, objects of beauty that still capture the imagination more than a century later.
I would put this today in a range of $18,000 to $25,000, with the higher end likely being more of the retail end of the market.
Wow.
It's a beautiful piece.
I always see people that say, I can't believe it, but I can't believe it, but it's wonderful.
Normally you expect a pair of vases to be exactly the same color. They're a little bit crudely modeled. They're well painted, but the English pieces at the same time period would be much more crisply modeled and even more well painted. But I don't think that's a huge issue. You are correct in that they could be called Vue Paris porcelains, which is sometimes also referred to as Old Paris porcelain, Paris porcelain, and what that term means is that they were made in or around Paris, usually considered the first half through the third quarter of the 19th century. It's a generic term used because usually we don't know what factory made them. But in this case, we do know who made them because they're marked on the bottom with the mark of the manufacturer. On the bottom is a J and a P in blue, and they're both marked, and that's the mark of a company named Jacques Petit, who is a well-respected manufacturer of Vue Paris porcelain.
Petit's vases were immediately recognizable for their exuberance. Tiny, delicately molded flowers, playful figurines, and intricate reliefs seemed to spill from the porcelain as if life itself had taken root in clay. Where earlier French porcelain favored restrained elegance, Petit's works burst with a flamboyant charm, evident in pieces like this pair. Soft pastel colors, gilded accents, and lavish floral bouquets transformed each vases into a miniature garden frozen in porcelain. These vases were more than mere containers. They were objects of delight, designed to be admired from every angle, their textures almost tangible to the touch. Petit's creations also reflected a broader cultural fascination with nature and sentimentality in 19th century France, catering to collectors who sought beauty, charm, and a touch of whimsy, qualities Petit delivered with meticulous craftsmanship. Today, Jacob Petit's vases are celebrated not only for their technical skill, but also for their exuberant personality, serving as a vivid reminder of a time when porcelain could be both a canvas and a stage for beauty, color, and imagination.
This pair would probably sell in a retail situation between $1,500 and $2,500. They have a really nice value.
Well, I hope that they can remain on the same dresser for many, many, many years.
As long as I can remember, they belong to my grandmother. My grandmother lived in Arkansas. From what I know, they're old Paris porcelain made in the mid-1850s. The figures depict scenes from Uncle Tom's Cabin. That's Uncle Tom and little Eva, and this is Eliza as she escapes on the ice. That's about all I know.
Have you ever seen another pair of them, or have you?
Well, online we did some research, and at the Harriet Beecher Stowe Museum, I think that there's a pair that are like these.
Have you ever been up there
No,
in
I've
Connecticut?
not.
She lived next door to another very famous author. Did you know that?
No.
Mark Twain.
Wow, okay.
Yeah. So if you go and visit her house, you can sort of walk a couple of 100 yards, and there's the Mark Twain house.
Wow, okay.
Uncle Tom's Cabin, which was published in 1852, was arguably one of the most important American novels, certainly of the 19th century.
In the 1860s, a new kind of porcelain vessel began to appear in French salons, vases inspired by the runaway bestseller Uncle Tom's Cabin. These pieces were part of a wider wave of French decorative arts that sought to capture contemporary culture, literature, and emotion in porcelain. Unlike the restrained neoclassical designs of earlier decades, these vases were theatrical, almost narrative in nature. The depiction of Uncle Tom here reflects a distinctly French approach. His features are shaped through a French Orientalist lens, giving him an appearance closer to a North African figure. Eliza, on the other hand, is rendered with the polished, idealized style typical of French academic sculpture. Today, Uncle Tom's Cabin vases offer a glimpse into mid-19th century French society, revealing both a fascination with foreign stories and a desire to turn porcelain into living narrative.
My feeling is that to insure them properly, you should put a value on the pair of at least $10,000.
Wow, great. That is great.
It came from my great-grandfather on my father's side. Came down through the family to my mother, who stuck it in a closet. She gave it to me in 1970, and it's been in my sideboard since.
What do you know about it?
It's Chinese, and it's got some figures on the bottom that I don't understand.
Well, it is Chinese. It's a very classic shape, this pear-shaped vase. It's Qing Dynasty,
Okay.
and it's actually imperial. Done at the imperial kilns in Jingdezhen, right outside of modern-day Shanghai.
Okay.
And how we know it's imperial is, first of all, by the form, by the glaze quality, and also by the rain mark on the base. The rain mark says, made in the Qing Dynasty during the reign of the Emperor Yangzheng.
During the Qing dynasty, China's imperial kilns reached the height of technical brilliance, producing porcelain that was both a testament to skill and a symbol of authority. Glazed porcelain vases from this period were not merely decorative. They embodied the prestige and power of the Yi emperor and were often reserved for court rituals, imperial palaces, or diplomatic gifts. The process was painstaking. Silky white porcelain was shaped into elegant forms, then coated with smooth, translucent glazes that ranged from the deep blues of cobalt to delicate celadons and vibrant famel rose palettes. These vases were prized for their perfection of form, balance of color, and the subtle glow of their glazes, which could capture and reflect light in mesmerizing ways. Qing dynasty imperial vases remain treasured today, celebrated not only for their beauty, but also for their story, a tale of a civilization in which art, ceremony, and authority were intertwined, and where porcelain carried the emperor's legacy through time.
At auction, it would bring conservatively, because of the slightly misfired glaze, about $30,000 to $50,000.
You're kidding me.
No.
I know they're Emile Galle, and in about 1975, my mother's stepfather died, and so I was allowed to go into the house and get some pieces, and this is two of the things that I did retrieve from the house.
And did you do some research on the name Galle?
I have. I know he died in 1904. I could not find a catalog of the number of the pieces, because these do have numbers on them, but I don't know what it meant.
Emile Galle was to French glass what Louis Comfort Tiffany was to American.
He was probably the best known of the French Art Nouveau artists.
Okay.
Now, these are not traditional Galle pieces. He's known for his cameo, his overlay pieces, where it's one color over another, and then they carved it away. These pieces are both early. I would date them roughly 1885 to 1890.
In the heart of Nancy, France, glassmaking evolved into an art form where nature and imagination intertwined. Emile Galle, a leading figure of the Art Nouveau movement, transformed molten glass into vibrant landscapes captured within delicate vases. Flowers, ferns, dragonflies, and flowing water were etched and layered in colored glass, giving each piece a luminous quality as if it glowed from within. Galle mastered the technique of cameo glass, carving intricate designs into multiple layers of colored glass so that every curve and detail shimmered with light. Each vase struck a delicate balance between artistry and technical skill, merging inspiration from nature with innovative craftsmanship. These vases quickly became symbols of refined taste, admired across European salons and exhibitions. Beyond their beauty, they embodied a movement that celebrated the harmony of art and nature, securing Galle's work as some of the most iconic and influential in French decorative arts.
On the big piece, on the U shape, I would put retail value on this piece about $15,000.
Oh my gosh, wow.
The little piece with the dragonfly, this piece, I would put a value of $25,000 on.
What? Oh my God, you're kidding.
I know absolutely nothing about it. It has a few markings on the bottom, but it wasn't enough to tell me how to look it up.
Sure. Okay, well, let's look at the marks. Right here, there's an N inside of a C, and that stands for Newcomb College, which is located in New Orleans, Louisiana.
Really?
There is a impressed mark here, which is a JM, which is the mark of the man who potted it. His name was Joseph Meyer. There is another symbol here, which are the initials of the woman who made it. Her name is Leona Nicholson, and she was a teacher there at Newcomb College. She taught pottery making. Lastly, there's another number. It says CE2, and that is part of the date code system that Newcomb College used. And you can look that up on a chart, and you can find out exactly what year it was made. So we looked that up, and this piece was made in 1908.
Newcomb College pottery was at the forefront of the American arts and crafts movement, producing ceramics that combined elegance with a distinctly Southern charm. Vases from this period were far more than functional objects. They were carefully crafted works of art, shaped from locally sourced clay and hand-painted with intricate, nature-inspired designs. Delicate magnolias, twisting vines, and flowing leaves adorned each surface, brought to life with soft, luminous glazes that highlighted both texture and form. This piece exemplifies the careful balance between decorative beauty and practical function, a hallmark of Newcomb's philosophy. Each vase reflected not only exceptional artistic skill, but also the college's mission to empower women through creative craftsmanship, making every piece an expression of education, artistry, and independence. Newcomb College. Vases of this era are now cherished for their lasting beauty. They embody a moment when American pottery intertwined natural motifs with Southern charm, creating works that continue to inspire and delight.
Now, this particular pot has a minor problem. It has a small chip on the bottom, which does affect the value a little bit. Yeah. And then talking about the value, there's another issue. Newcomb College pottery, unfortunately, has gone down in value in the last 5 or 10 years, but it's still very desirable and very collectible. This is quite large for Newcomb. A lot of Newcomb is very short, and our estimated at auction, this vase would sell for between $30,000 and $40,000.
Oh my goodness.
Well, this belonged to my grandfather. He lived in Salt Lake City and was a history buff. He particularly was interested in Western history, and this vase was part of his collection of items, and it was on his mantle at his house for years and years. I know it's a Rookwood pottery vase, manufactured in Cincinnati, Ohio.
Well, we do have a Rookwood pottery vase here, made in 1901. Do you know anything about the figure on the front of it?
I don't know anything about him.
The Native American Indian chief on the front is Big Bow. He was a Kiowa Indian, and if you look here, there's a Rookwood mark up at the top, and the mark with a 1 for 1901. There is Big Bow, Kiowa. And then we have the artist's signature inscription there. And the artist was Grace Young, and she did a number of Native American portrait vases for Rookwood.
At the turn of the 20th century, American art pottery was quietly changing. Rookwood Pottery in Cincinnati was leading the way. By 1901, the studio had built a reputation for turning pottery into fine art, blending design, chemistry, and a distinctly American vision. It was during this time as Rookwood's warm, glowing standard glaze became a backdrop for detailed portrait decoration that Grace Young created her Big Bow vase. Big Bow's portrait seems to float beneath the glaze like a memory frozen in amber. Handmade and carefully crafted, the vase reflects the spirit of the arts and crafts movement and the skill that made Rookwood famous. Now regarded as an icon of early Rookwood design, the Grace Young Big Bow vase reflects a formative era in American pottery, leaving a legacy that has kept collectors enthralled for over a century.
The conservative auction estimate would be between $6,000 and $9,000.
Oh, my goodness.
During the 1960s, many mid-century vacation homes and beach homes were being torn down to be replaced by new buildings, and many of their owners had been people who had traveled all over Europe and plundered Europe as they made their world tours and filled their lovely mansions with beautiful things.
Did you get this out of one of those houses?
I got it from someone who bought it from one of those houses.
Okay.
She was actually a dealer. My husband and I were newly married. We had very little money at the time, and I think we could not have paid more than $200, $250 for it. Probably more like $150.
Okay. Well, what we have here is a Doulton vase. It is English, made at the Burslem factory. Beautifully done. It is very, very typical of the late Victorian era. It's signed here by George White, an artist with the Doulton Burslem factory. What we see here is the Doulton Burslem emblem. Okay,
yes.
This mark is going to tell us that this piece was made between 1891 and 1902. Now, we know George White was working at the factory during that time period, and we know that he cared so much about it that he then signed it, and he also probably titled it. So more than likely, the title of this piece is indeed Autumn.
At Staffordshire's Doulton studio, artistry and technical mastery converged to create ceramics that were as beautiful as they were enduring. Among the studio's finest contributions were the designs of George White, whose signature pieces combined elegant forms with subtle, naturalistic decoration. Each vase was carefully molded and glazed, reflecting a balance between ornate detail and refined simplicity that set Doulton apart from other studios. These vases captured both domestic admiration and international attention, embodying a period when English ceramics was celebrated not only for utility, but also for artistry. A signed George White vase represents the pinnacle of this craftsmanship, a seamless blend of skilled production, aesthetic innovation, and enduring beauty that continues to fascinate collectors and enthusiasts today.
In this particular case, this does represent what is probably the top 5% of Doulton. As such, that market has not been hit as hard with regard to pricing. If you sold it at auction today, my guess is you're looking somewhere between $2,000 and $3,000. So
I see. Oh.
My husband and I bought it about 30 years ago up in Seattle. We were up there on business. We saw it at a estate place, and we liked it. We thought it was beautiful. We're just sort of getting into antiques at that time,
right.
And so we bought it. We thought it was really pretty, but we didn't know exactly what it was. It said Tiffany on the bottom, but we weren't sure it was Tiffany because it was so big, and it could have been a fake or something like that.
Tiffany was pretty much the first to do beautiful Art Nouveau iridescent glass.
Yeah, I've heard that.
He was like the dean of American glass. Here you have a beautiful vase. It's a Favrile vase, iridescent. The design, as you see it, the color was pulled off hot and then pulled down with tools while it was being blown.
Inspired by ancient Roman glass unearthed from the sands, its surfaces transformed into soft rainbow patinas. Tiffany set out to recreate that iridescence not through time, but through controlled chemistry and heat. The effort led to Favrile glass, patented in 1894 and refined in the years that followed. Unlike earlier decorative glass, Favrile held its color within the material itself, giving pieces like this one a depth and richness that feels almost alive. To achieve the effect, metallic salts were added to molten glass, and when exposed to carefully managed heat and oxygen, the surface shifted into luminous shades of gold, violet, green, and opal. Collectors quickly recognized the novelty and beauty of this new approach, elevating Tiffany's creations into the realm of luxury art. Today, a Tiffany iridescent vase from around 1900 stands as more than decoration. It is a preserved moment in American design, a testament to the brilliance of Favrile glass, and a shimmering reminder of how Tiffany expanded the very idea of what glass could be.
I would say in a retail store in New York, you could easily expect a price of $8,000 to $10,000 on the vase.
Wow. Wow. Okay.